right to be part of the ANC, for instance, a political movement that claims, or that at that time was claiming that it is there to liberate people. So when we look at the third wave of feminism, after we've gone through the first and the second wave of feminism, the third wave of feminism began in your mid-90s. In your mid-90s, this is the phase where many constructs were destabilized. And what do we mean when we say many constructs were destabilized? It includes the notions of universal women. Now, this is the universal woman that at that time had claimed to advocate for sexuality, gender, and body. So how was this destabilized is that this wave made an important tactical approaches that responded to the sequence of theoretical problems within the second wave. So this wave felt like there were certain theoretical problems that the second wave might have picked up but did not entirely address. And then the approaches that the third wave used was the first one was to collapse the category of women, and the second one was the rise of the postmodernization or postmodernism, and then the third one was the divisiveness of sex wars. Now let's look at the response to the first collapse of category of women. The wave at the forefront basically had looked at the personal narratives that illustrated the intersectional and multi-perspectival versions of feminism. The feminism that seeks to have diversified content, diversified viewpoints. And then the second approach, which was the rise of postmodernism, this is where it resulted in the readoption of young women saying they want to claim their beauty back as well. So this part is where women feminists of every color, of every lipstick, of every high heel, of basically every ownership, body ownership, cleavage, were proudly owning and exposing by low cut necklines that the first two waves of the movement identified with only male oppression. They believed that it only identified with male oppression. It did not also address the issue of who they are and what they should believe in and what they should be proud of as women in terms of beauty and everything else. That is just the theoretical approach that this wave was using. And then the last one, on the last one, the third wave embraced questionable over synthesis and action over theoretical justification. So it made sure that it raises all the questionable issues that were not dealt with, that were not covered, that were not addressed, over things that wanted to just blend women together. It was more than just blending women together. There were women who were not blended. Black women are not blended. Even in the white women that felt that they were blended. But they felt like some issues like their beauty were not addressed well. That I must be proud that I can be a beauty king, wear high heels, but still still work for a mining company. And then the last approach was the response to the divisiveness of sex wars that divided and caused hostility between people. Now, this wave emphasized an importance of inclusive and non-judgmental approach that refuses to policies the boundaries of the feminist political approach. So no one was supposed to be bounded. There was supposed to be no boundaries on how feminists wanted to express themselves, despite of color, race, or any identity that you can mention. So this wave basically penetrated a space as strong, empowered, and renounced victimization and defined feminine beauty for women as a subject and not an object of the sexist patriarchy. Okay, so in essence, or in other words, the third wave of feminism, what it did is that it broke boundaries. It rejected grand narratives for a feminism that operates as a humanistic of critique. and within a wide array of locations. And then after that, it replaced it, after rejecting all of that, it replaced it with welcoming a unified attempt of politics of coalition. So now, third wave of feminism in Africa. Now, even black women in America were gaining prominence now. Remember, black women are still trying to organize themselves within their spaces there in the periphery, we believe. So America, even in America now, where black women are starting to gain prominence, they started having a voice. So here, this phase is where black radical feminism gained a huge prominence. It defined, as much as black women had you mobilized themselves together, they still didn't understand exactly what they wanted. They knew what they wanted, but they didn't know what to identify themselves with. They didn't even know what to call themselves with. So only then, after seeing that what unites them as black women is isolation, it's oppression, it's marginalization, they said it's a black struggle. So they needed a black radical approach to approach feminism. So that's what black radical feminism basically did. Women started to own their sexuality and identity, and black women found where they were not given expression by white women, both in the first two waves. Hence, the phase began to radically think and act to favor black women in particular. So in this wave, white women did not accept the struggle of black women because they did not understand it. So it's not because they hated women. They did not understand the struggle of black women. They were not speaking the same terms. Black women are speaking about imperialism. Black women are speaking about capitalism. Black women are speaking about racism. Black women are speaking about sexism. And when you speak about racism, white people are racist. White people are the ones that brought colonialism to Africans, to black people. So that thing divided them. So that's what it means. That's what I mean when I say that white women did not understand understand the struggle of black women. It criticizes a lot of things that they didn't have a problem with. So in order to organize themselves, black women had to find themselves something that defined them, and it was only black radical feminism that defined them. And that's when they started the whole concept of womanism. That's when they started the whole concept of humanism. And when you look at what womanism is, it is basically a social theory that is based on history of an everyday life of a woman of color, which black women associated themselves with. They associated themselves as women of color, women of culture, women of ethnic groups, women of religion, which did not define the next gender, which they felt like they are binded with. So particularly black women, it acknowledged the racism that was perceived by black women in the feminist movement. And then womanism is where the exclusion of African and American women, black women, gained their relevance in discussing challenges faced in the black community by women. It identified major tenets, and that characterizes the humanistic approach or humanistic perspective of it. And when you speak of the tenets, we speak of the principles or the beliefs that binded women in terms of religion and philosophy, black women in terms of religion and philosophy. So both the concepts gained prominence, and only then black women were accepted as part of the feminist movement by white women. But was it late, or was it early, or was it necessary? Those are the questions we ask ourselves. And then another thing is that what we also need to consider is that the formation of feminism that is then perceived to be genuine, that because the formation of feminism had nothing to do with black women. So is it okay for black women to now adopt feminism that they did not form part of? The principles of and the beliefs of the ideologies and the ideas that formed feminism and the political strategies that formed feminism, but that excluded them as black women. Was that also genuine for black women to adopt feminism as a concept or as an ideology and a movement when it first isolated them? it's until this day, it's a discussion, it's a point of discussion where everyone is always discussing and engaging on it. So yeah, so black women still believed and were made aware that feminism excluded them, therefore it was against them. Now that is the third wave of feminism in Africa. So looking at that, that's when the likes of Rebecca Walker, if we all know the prominent, famous, successful Rebecca Walker, gained relevance in the space of the third wave. She was an American writer, a feminist, and activist, regarded as the prominent voices of the third wave of feminism. They start this idea of black radical feminism where they present it and what it means to be a black woman of a society where you are constantly rejected by your own black people who supposedly believe that there are bigger issues than women issues. So about Rebecca Walker, your likes of Rebecca Walker were not only just questionable by probably the white feminist movement, but they were also questionable by black women who did not have a problem, who were consumed by white struggles, and black men as well, who believed that the reason why they are the victims of patriarchy, or they are the holders or the owners of patriarchy, is because of capitalism. In other words, black radical feminism gained prominence in the middle of the third wave, and black women started owning the term. They did not have a name for it though. They identified themselves with the black struggles, with the black woman issues. Now, after the third wave feminism, we have a fourth wave feminism. The third wave feminism is referred to your 2010s. Some saying no, it started in 2010. Some people are saying it started in 2012. Black radical feminism, fourth wave of feminism is known as a digital revolution to some people. For some people, it is where it developed via social media and the internet, and the likes of, during your Fees Must Fall, the likes of end rape culture gained prominence. Those campaigns were not only just ran on the ground, but they were also ran digitally. So that's why people refer to the fourth wave feminism as a digital revolution, because people are not only just running it on the ground, but people are running it on social media. People across the globe are interacting and raising their voices and their oppression, and they are expressing themselves via a digital platform. Young African intersectional feminists felt so strongly that their campaign should be intersectional and fight the abandoning of males during protest about the gender-based violence. The fourth wave of feminism is a phase where feminists just did not only discuss the liberation and the individualism and social mobility, but the fourth wave feminism also wanted to highlight and focus and calling for justice against assault and harassment during this time, for equal pay, for equal work, and for bodily autonomy. So when you listen to what I'm basically saying, bodily autonomy is something that second wave feminism was advocating for. And equal pay for equal work in terms of gender as well, that women must also get paid the same salary as men, is something that first wave of feminism advocated for. When it comes to social mobility is something that suffrage movement advocated for. When it comes to liberation and individualism, it's something that the liberal feminism advocated for. Those are the ideologies that also represented all these views that the fourth wave feminism is advocating for. But it's basically saying, it speaks to a lot of things. It even speaks against abuse of power. It speaks to provide for equal opportunities for girls and women. In addition of advocating for women, fourth wave feminists believe that boys and men should have greater opportunities to express their emotions and feelings freely, to present themselves as they wish, and to be engaged parents to their children. So there's nothing wrong with a weak man being a father, walking at the mall with their child, with a baby daddy who changes nappies. It basically also speaks directly to culture to some extent. That is your fourth wave of feminism. It addresses the issue of culture, the issue of tradition, and some people argue that they will never forsake or or isolate what their culture and tradition represents. But fourth wave of feminism saying, let us be considerate, because we have all these stages and all these waves, and as black people we believe that we must speak to the issue of intersectionality, to the issue of gender, class, and gender ideas. And so it basically says that let us zoom into that culture and the tradition that sometimes seeks to oppress women simply because it is a culture. That is a fourth wave of feminism. And then, since we know that the previous feminist waves of feminists, they faced your socio-political obstacles in terms of structures and lacked the available communication channels, fourth wave harness digital media as a far-reaching platform on which way no one can be limited. Some people, remember in the other waves, people could only raise their views on certain platforms, not just any platforms. But the fourth wave of feminism that is referred to as the digital revolution, it offers everyone to participate and express their views in any social media platform, in any digital platform, for them to be heard. If it takes them YouTube, if it takes them Skype, if it takes them any social media platform to be engaged, so be it. But it grants everyone the right to express themselves wherever, however, as much as they want to. It restricts and limits no one. That's the kind of revolution that it has. So the social media activism can manifest as either Twitter threads critiquing perceived transphobia in the media, or so-called hashtag feminism campaigns. It's a lot of other things that it addresses. But other fourth wave feminism also include everyday sexism projects. It includes Stop Blind Sexism. It's 1 billion rising. So that's what the digital revolution, which is your fourth wave feminism, basically refers to. And then now, lastly, before I close, I'm just gonna quickly touch on Black radical feminism as an identity. The use of intersectional identities has been criticized for being additive, and because of this, it neglected the dynamic relationship of these identities that are co-constitutive of different oppressions in relation to structural inequalities. What do I mean by I mean that Black radical feminism's response to power, and in terms of response to power, is that power is there to resist white women when they exercise their power on black women. So as much as when white women were denied power in their households, or white women were denied power in their offices, the first people who they will then go to and exercise their power was black women. So black women had to then find a way to resist power, to resist oppression from white women. And then the second one is the power to resist oppression from a white man. So now black women also have to have power to resist oppression to white men. And the third one again is the power to resist oppression from a black man. Black women also had to resist power from black men. So now, right now, the enemy of a black woman, some people say an enemy, some people will go against the word enemy when we talk about Black radical feminism, is that it does not matter. But Black radical feminists felt like, and they still feel like they need to resist oppression from white women who exercise their power on them. They need to resist oppression from white men who exercise their power on them on a daily basis, and then resist oppression from even black men who are the owners of patriarchy in the African context and in the African world. So Black radical feminism helped understand that fundamental misunderstanding of feminist movements formation and activism was not only in its theoretical context or praxis, but also in relations to identity. It is identity understanding and politics that leads to the idea that there should be a white movement for women and a black movement for black women. And lastly, this is a denial of coalition politics and a dangerous road to embark on, because the breaking of identities leads to realized politics that find solutions for only one group, often the exclusion of others. So in all of this, as much as feminism was there to basically find solutions for women, but it oppressed another group of women. So was the formation of feminism genuine? Perhaps, maybe not. But the society, black women in particular, still believe that everyone can be a feminist. Everyone can advocate for social, political, and economic rights, equal rights for women. So anyone can be a feminist, for that matter. Even though feminism was formed and was dominated by women, but anyone can be a feminist as long as they believe in that. So thank you so much for going through with me today and getting to understand what feminism is and the waves of feminism that are under feminism, and then furthermore get to look at what black radical feminism is and what formed black radical feminism, what inspired black radical feminism, and what is black radical feminism as an identity. And I hope that this will contribute in your assessments, it will contribute to your understanding, and it will furthermore contribute into your growth, apart from just assessments, but into your contribution to the society and your influence from your household, society, and to the corporate world that we all exist in. Thank you so much for being with us. Hope to see you again next week. Please look out for the next videos that are also going to be put up from your intersectionality and others on gender. Thank you.